The following podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Like what you hear? Want more of it ad-free, uncensored, and earlier? Sign up today at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and start getting more for as little as $2 a month. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for your main event, where news and opinions on the sport of kings collide. WrestleMedia is proud to present The Wrasslun Show. Welcome to The Wrasslun Show, part of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling, and wrestling is everything. I'm at Adam Conta, and I'm flying solo this week as we barrel towards Chinlock Wrestling's Chinlock 5 event this Saturday. I gave Matt Sukram the week off. He's going through a little bit of a tough time right now, as is our friend Jeff DeHaan over at Forging the Future. They're going to take the weeks off because they're going through a little bit of something right now. They've experienced some loss recently, so our thoughts are with them, our well wishes, our positive vibes, if you will. You know, they're parts of the WrestleMedia family, so keep them in your thoughts, send them some good vibes, and I'm sure they will be back to entertaining us as soon as they possibly can. I wanted to just come out here before we get to our great interview with Rob Schamberger, talk to him for almost an hour about art and comics and pro wrestling and how he ended up becoming the resident artist for the WWE. It's a fascinating story. You're going to want to hear all of it. And if you want to hear all of it, and I do mean all of it, as in the entire interview in its full form, you got to check out patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. If you throw a few ducats in the bucket every month, you're going to get all kinds of cool rewards. Everything from our $2 tier that'll get you a shout-out, a personalized shout-out from us here at WrestleMedia, all the way up to our advertising tiers where you can get a commercial before the show or in the middle of the show. And speaking of commercials, maybe you don't like commercials. Well, we got a tier for that too. It's our main event tier. You can get these podcasts ad-free at that level, which is really cool. You don't have to worry about hearing any commercials. You just get the full, uncut, uncensored editions of these podcasts. Now, if you just want more, you got to go to our $10 tier. That is our mid-carder tier. That'll get you the full episode of the podcast, nothing cut out of it. And you'll get that every single podcast that we produce. Plus, if you're one of our $5 tiers, that's our Curtain Jerker tier, you get the podcast early, usually 2 days earlier than the public does. So you're going to get all this cool stuff. You're going to get more of it, and you're going to get it earlier. It's really win-win. But the reason we ask you to donate over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca is because it helps us. Every dollar you donate, every ducat that goes in the bucket goes towards building a bigger and better WrestleMedia. It helps to pay for things like our equipment, the time that it takes for us to do research. You know, time's a valuable thing, maybe even more so than some materials out there. And we always appreciate anybody who loves what we do so much that they're willing to support us financially. So if you can find it to do so, if you can find the room in your wallet and in your heart, please make a donation. We would love that. If you can't, no problem. Keep enjoying our podcast. We love giving them to you for free, but maybe slide them into the DMs of a family member or a friend or even a stranger. Anyone who loves talking about wrestling and listen to guys and gals talking about wrestling, because that's what we're about here at WrestleMedia.ca. We also want to remind you that we have our newsletter, which goes out every single week, Saturday mornings. You can wake up and you can get all the news about what's going on at WrestleMedia this week. What are the shows, the big ones this week? What's going on our YouTube channel? That's something else I want to address. Lately, I have been training for a new career position. And in doing so, a lot of my time has been taken up by that training. So I haven't been able to be as active when it comes to creating the video content that you're used to over on our YouTube channel. Well, that is going to change after this weekend. You know, we've been building up towards Chinlock Wrestling, and we've been doing it for such a long time now that I didn't want to do anything that would ruin that. So I've been putting my focus where I need to before I burn out. But trust me when I say that once we get back from Chinlock, we're going to have a lot more video content on our YouTube channel. So I would recommend you go over there and you subscribe to it so that you will get all of our new videos, and hit that notification bell, because that's the thing. It's a 1-2 punch, right? You got to subscribe, but you also got to hit that notification bell, because if you don't, then you're not going to know when we get a new video. So
go make sure you do that, okay? I would really appreciate it. And I would appreciate it if you would get in on our conversations. Maybe you heard a hot take over on The Last and Mark. Maybe Matt and I said something you didn't agree with, or maybe there was something you felt like we missed in the conversation. Well, we want to hear from you. Please do that by following and liking us on our social media pages. We've got a Facebook page, we've got Twitter, and we've got Instagram, and they're all under WrestleMedia.ca. No dot there. It's the only difference. There's no dot there. When you visit our website, there is a dot. It's the only difference there. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about this interview that I did with Rob Schamberger. He's the resident WWE artist, which means all of those cool watercolor paintings that you've seen for sale or maybe up for auction or on a t-shirt, right? That's his work. And he's been doing these paintings for a long, long time. But it took him a while to get there. And he's got a really fascinating story. I got to tell you, I was expecting a quick little chat with Rob, and we went almost an hour talking about all the stuff that he's been doing and about all the things he wants to do. And he seems like a really cool guy. He loves ketchup chips. He's got a cat. So, he's a dude after my own heart. Please enjoy the interview. It's going to be fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, my interview with the talented Rob Schamberger. I'm very pleased to be sitting here talking with an incredibly talented artist, Rob Schamberger, and if I'm not mistaken, the official in-house artist for World Wrestling Entertainment. Is that correct? Is that an official title for you?
They call me their artist in residence, which sounds fancy, and I like that.
But that's a pretty cool title, man. I would, if I were you, I'd have business cards made up to say that on there, is that how people refer to you when they have to introduce you now, or is it just something that you kind of get to show off at cocktail parties?
It's kind of like, yeah, he paints wrestlers.
Well, let me ask you a question then. When you first started painting, is that kind of what you always imagined? How did your love of art and painting specifically, how did that start for you? Where did it all begin?
I started with comic books, actually, when I got my first one when I was 7 years old, and thought I want to make this. Right, I want to be one of the people doing this. And for a long time, I was trying to be a comic book artist, and just never really took off. I had stuff published here and there, but I had to have a day job, right? And so the painting part of it was just trying to experiment as an artist, to continue to grow, to try out different things and see what I could bring back to what I considered my core style. And eventually the paintings I was doing were getting more attention than the comic book stuff. But, still had to keep the day job, because what I figured out was I didn't have a subject matter where I could really stand out. And then it hit me, no one's doing fine art focused on pro wrestling, something that I love. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, no one's doing this. And jumped in, and within a few months, no job, and now it's about 7 years I've been doing this full time.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know as a creative person myself and someone who creates content, it can be discouraging when it's what you want to do and how you want to make your living, but it's not always happening. So you said it took about 7 years to get to that point where you are right now, but is that how long it took for you to become a full-time artist? How long were you working as an artist before you got to quit the day job?
Oh boy. So I'm 39 next month, and I started working professionally as an artist when I was 17. So that long.
So hang in there, kids. It can take a while.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting aspect of your life, because your wife is also freelance. You guys are both artists, and she does a different kind of art, mind you, but she still is a freelancer. And does that ever, at this point in time, obviously with you working for WWE, I would assume as a fan, and I'm sure others assume, that, you guys are probably comfortable. You guys aren't worrying, living paycheck to paycheck. But how does one kind of overcome that? Because I know that for a lot of people, that's a very scary prospect, the idea of there's no steady work coming in the sense of you don't have a paycheck that you can rely on every single week,
Yeah, it's definitely tough. And like the biggest hurdle obviously is healthcare here in the States. That's something that we have to be aware of all the time, both as self-employed people. Like WWE is my biggest client, right? Like I don't specifically work for them, but they definitely give me the opportunity to do as much with them as I can. It's definitely that philosophy of if I'm not working, I'm not earning. So I'm, busting ass all the time to give them the most and the best work possible. And my wife is like that with her clients as well. And we do the best that we can to balance the work-life thing. Like we have dedicated workspaces in our house. I took over the attic. She has the office that she works out of. And we kind of stick to ourselves because we have different working environments that we do as well. Like I'll have like a TV show, like I'll, like let a Netflix show run while I'm working, or I'll have a podcast going. When she's, physically writing, she doesn't want people talking, right? So we kind of stay separate there. And then also like it's, you got to have some time apart to realize how much you want to be together. So like when we're both done around like 7 p.m. or so, we'll get together for dinner and, sit on the couch for the rest of the night. But yeah, it's tough, and it's a thing that we've been learning as we go for, these 7 years now.
The balance is very important. You got to make time for, important things in your life, family, friends, your cat, all important stuff out there. And, and I say that as a fellow fur father myself. I've got 2 of them. And I've seen in your YouTube videos, your cat, and, that just did my heart, made me like you a little bit more, because, I think us cat lovers, we got to stick together for sure. I wanted to ask about the podcasts and the Netflix. What's the kind of stuff? I mean, aside from these podcasts, the WrestleMedia podcast, obviously, what are the kind of podcasts and Netflix stuff that you put on in the background while you're working? I find that stuff kind of fascinating. Like, what is it that an artist will listen to just while they're creating something new? That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I don't do too much wrestling audio anymore, just because I work in the business and have been for so long now that so much of it is people hyping themselves, or I'm like, oh, come on, it wasn't like that. I was there, right? So like, you're just spitting it. Come on. Or, whoever gave you that source was wrong, that kind of stuff. Also, like, I'm so dedicated on wrestling with stuff that I'm doing that I like to get outside of that bubble with the other audio. So like right now, both of the Conan O'Brien podcasts, I like a whole lot. The Gilbert Gottfried podcast, the funnier stuff, but also sometimes like, some of those, like crime drama ones, I'll enjoy. As far as the streaming stuff, sometimes it'll be like shows that I've already watched, and it's kind of like just playing the hits in the background,
Sure, yeah.
Or a show that is kind of dumb,
yeah,
so that I'm not having to be too focused on it, right? Like I've watched The Wire so many times that I could have The Wire on,
right.
But like if I were just watching it for the first time, it would be distracting me too much because the show's so good, right? And so cerebral. So like something that has just like a lot of dialogue in it, so that it's, just someone talking while I'm sitting there, looking at a pro wrestler.
Is it always white noise and background for you, or do you ever find that you have to turn something off because it's affecting you and the work that you're doing? Do you ever get into that mindset when it comes to other media influencing you while you're creating?
Yeah, sometimes it's the wrong vibe for sure, or just like my mental state is not in the place for it. Like I one time tried having Mad Men going while I was working. Like, no, this show is too dark. I could just feel it like punching my soul. That did not work. And sometimes I just want something a little more upbeat, or like there's that Netflix show Nailed It. And it's fun and dumb, right?
Sure.
And so I only have to turn to look to see the reveal of how they screwed up baking the cake or whatever. So sometimes my brain kind of needs that, especially if outside influences in the normal day-to-day life are rougher than other days, like any person has, right? Sometimes when my wife and I have both had a really heavy work day or just a rough day around, all around, we'll put on House Hunters International or something, to where it's just okay, which house are they going to get? And that's the only drama here. It's the only drama my spirit can handle right now.
I think you need to pitch a show to WWE similar to Nailed It, where you present one of your paintings and then you get a group of wrestling fan amateurs to try and recreate that painting. That's a show that I would watch on the network. So I think you got to pitch that to the WWE, because I think that would be fun. Or
even better, get the wrestlers.
Oh my God, yes. Look at that. See, took the idea and ran with it. Love it. That's fantastic. I want to go back to before you hooked up with WWE and you were doing your day job. What were you doing outside of creating art?
Well, I always had it in my head that I'm a professional artist and I had a day job to pay for that career.
Right.
That was kind of the mindset I had. So also, I didn't have the option to go to college. So I picked jobs where I knew I would get different skills that I needed to be not just a professional artist, but also marketing, or being the owner of a business, which being
Smart.
a freelancer is. Freelance is just kind of one of those derogatory terms that makes people not realize they're small business owners. And so we treat ourselves like individuals or employees without rights, instead of, no, I'm a business owner too, right? So I try to have that mindset. But anyway, I worked at banks, I worked in insurance, call centers. I was a social media manager and marketing stuff. A lot of different, hats that I had, where I was getting the experience and the skills that I wanted, but also that I knew I would be utterly miserable at the job, so that I wouldn't get comfortable and move away from the art.
What do you think was the most miserable job that you worked at? What was the one job you're like, well, it's putting food on the table, but man, I can't wait to get out of this?
Oh, easily when I worked in a call center for flood insurance.
That's a tough gig.
That was the worst. And my wife can attest to that. It took years off my life. It was really bad. It was definitely one of those where if you had to call into corporate for benefits or whatever, they didn't want you to even use your name. They just wanted your employee number. Oof. It was one of those where you were just a number.
I've been there. That's a tough gig. That's a hard road to hoe there. Absolutely, it is. So we're glad that you made those sacrifices to provide the excellent art that you are putting out now. We got a lot of comic book fans.
I did it for you.
Oh, well, thank you. For me particularly. That means a lot to me. I'll tell you something. Looking at some of the prints that you put out there, some of the art that you create, I feel like it is just for me. And I'm sure, I'm sure that you get that from a lot of fans, but that's the power of great art, right? So, thank you for doing what you do. Now, we do have a lot of comic book fans within our own group here at WrestleMedia, Forging the Future's Jeff DeHaan particularly, and he wanted me to ask you about some of those comic book influences, because it's clear from some of the work that you've done. He pointed specifically to the Asuka Alundra Blaze mashup and the Kairi Sane Lightning tribute, that he felt like, clearly this is a Dark Knight tribute, and he got a lot of Wolverine vibe from the Asuka Alundra Blaze mashup. So he was kind of wondering about some of your favorite comic book characters and artists, the people that inspired you from that world.
Sure. it's tough to make a list because I'm such a comic book guy that I could just, go for a couple hours talking about everyone that influences me. But like the bigger ones, that as soon as I list them off, if you're into comics, you'll be like, oh yeah, that. The bigger ones that really influence me are like David Mack, Bill Sienkiewicz, Dave McKean, as well as like Kelly Jones and Bernie Wrightson and early Sin City era Frank Miller, as well as another artist, J.H. Williams III. Those are all ones that have a pretty heavy-handed influence on me. But also there will just be little things that different guys will do that I'm like, oh, I want to try that out with my own approach.
Hey, this is a commercial for patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca, where you can get early access to episodes of your favorite WrestleMedia shows, get full uncut and uncensored versions of your favorite shows, and more. Don't want to hear this commercial on your podcast anymore? Sign up at our main event tier and get these episodes ad-free. Want to hear your own commercial here instead of ours? We've got tiers for that too. Visit patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca and join the WrestleMedia revolution today. I got to know how you came to know Jan Murphy, and how'd you get involved with Chinlock Wrestling?
Oh boy, I'm trying to think of how that happened. I think I had done an interview with him, and we just kind of hit it off conversationally, and stayed in touch. And then because my wife is a writer, she and Jan at a WrestleMania Access kind of clicked. And then Jan, for the first, I think it was the second Chinlock event that he was in charge of, brought me up for that, and then changed my life when he introduced me to ketchup chips. We don't have ketchup chips in America.
I know.
Utterly rocked my world. And so then it's like, well, I guess I'm, going to have to stay in your good graces so that you can bring me up for ketchup chips.
You really don't know what you're missing out on. Earlier you talked about healthcare. The real issue is no ketchup chips, I think,
Oh man, it's for real. I guess it's a thing the Canadians have of watching an American eat a ketchup chip for the first time, because it's again it's like watching Ric Flair for the first time doing a promo. Man, it's like dipping a French fry into ketchup. It just utterly changed how I viewed the entire planet.
If nothing else, if I will take nothing else away from this podcast, I will take away that you compared Ric Flair to a ketchup chip. And that is maybe the greatest thing that I've heard on this entire podcast. It's amazing. And I thank you for that so much.
It's a compliment to both parties.
I got to ask about your signature slogan, because lots of your canvas to canvas videos end with you or a talent that you've drawn a portrait of saying, not bad. I got to ask where that came from. What's that all about?
It's that Midwestern humility thing.
Right.
That if you happen to be good at something, or if you did something well, you don't advertise it, right? You stay humble about it. Well, that one wasn't bad.
Right.
And that's how I am. Instead of wow, look at this amazing thing I did, because that would be a total heel move. Instead, I'm just saying well, that one wasn't bad.
As a Canadian, I can say that I think that I can relate a little bit to that. I can understand that, Woody, for sure. Chinlock Wrestling 5. The Legends Convention. You made a joke on one of the videos about Shockmaster being your favorite wrestler, but come on, man. Fred Ottman's going to be there. WrestleMedia is sponsoring him. We're actually real excited about him being there. So many of these legends are going to be a part of this event. Who are you most excited to see, or I guess catch up with, considering that you know most of these guys already?
Yeah. As far as catching up, I'm most excited to hang out with Hornswoggle. He was my friend before I even started with the company. Dylan's a buddy, so it's funny that we have to go, to another country to catch up. But that's the wrestling life.
Yep.
And as far as meeting, totally Shockmaster, man. I'm for real. We're going to be best friends by the end of it.
I think you, me, and Shockmaster, Fred to Ottman, Tuggy, as we've come to know him here on the network because of our friend Andrew Kent, we're going to have to get a picture together in front of that big WrestleMedia banner. I can't wait for that. That's going to be incredible. And I'm going to assume that fans of your work who attend Chinlock are going to be able to pick up some of those incredible prints, including one of those Andre the Giant burning building ones for myself.
I don't know if I'll have that one there, but I am doing... I just finished a whole new painting that has all the legends on it.
From the Chinlock event.
Yes. And people will be able to, take that around and, get it signed by everyone, which would be pretty awesome. And all the proceeds from that are going to the charities that the event is supporting.
Youth Diversion
I'm not
Kingston,
taking a single dime for anything that I'm doing there. All the proceeds go to charity.
You're getting paid in ketchup chips.
I am. And I'm excited about it.
Rob, it has been
roll around in them.
It's been an absolute pleasure, my man. I can't wait to meet you up at the show at Chinlock, June 15th in Kingston, Ontario. Thanks so much for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
There you have it. Rob Schamberger. What an incredible guest he was. Now, if you are one of our patrons, you heard that interview in full. There was a lot there to digest. And if you're someone that listens to our show for free via WrestleMedia.ca, cool. If you want to hear more, you know what to do. Hit up patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca. Otherwise, if you like the episode, you could rate and review us on iTunes. 5 stars is obviously what we'd love to get, but we'll take just about anything. We're pretty desperate when it comes to those ratings and reviews over on iTunes. So please give generously with those reviews. That would be really great for us. And of course, you can always share this podcast directly with a friend. Those rates and reviews will help us get seen by more strangers, but we would love it if you would tell everybody that you know about us. It's like a business, right? You got to get those referrals in there, and that's what we want. We want referrals. If you visit WrestleMedia.ca, you'll see that we have a section where we're on the road, which means that we are traveling from show to show, place to place, stop to stop. And of course, our next one is this Saturday. If you're listening to the free version on WrestleMedia.ca, that's tomorrow, which means you haven't got a lot of time to get yourself your tickets to the Chinlock Wrestling Legends Convention and Chinlock Wrestling House of Hardcore Chinlock 5 event, all taking place from the Leon Center on Tragically Hip Way in my former hometown of Kingston, Ontario. This is going to be easily the biggest wrestling show to hit Kingston this year, and it may be the biggest wrestling show to hit Ontario. That's right, I'm calling out the WWE and SummerSlam on this one. Whether you're a WWE fan, whether you're a Chinlock fan, this show is stacked. Let's start with the Legends Convention. Bret the Hitman Hart, the big headliner. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. The Lasting Marks, Mike Walsh and Danny Parkhill did a whole episode about him this week. Go check that out and get your tickets to this Legends Convention, okay? We got the Brain Busters and 4 Horsemen members, Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. These two guys are some of the best wrestlers of a generation. They're going to have some stories, and if you want to hear them, well, then you're going to go have to meet them over at the Legends Convention. What about the Hall of Famer Mark Henry? There's a guy that knows a thing or two about podcasts and wrestling radio shows. He's part of the Busted Open team, who do an incredible job each and every week. And he's a Hall of Famer, former world champion. This guy has done it all. He's been there from the new generation era all the way up to the most modern era that we're currently enjoying in WWE. So if you want to talk to a guy that's really knowledgeable, hook up with Mark Henry. Swoggle's going to be there. One of the most interesting and inspiring stories of the WWE. Ask him about the time he won the Cruiserweight Championship. Ask him about working with Finlay. Ask him about the anonymous GM or working with DX. You can do that over at the Legends Convention. You've got Jimmy Hart, the Mouth of the South. I think I may be most looking forward to meeting him, just because I'm a big fan of Jimmy Hart. I've worked with him in the past, and he's such a great guy. He's got so many great stories. So any chance I get to catch up with Jimmy is absolutely phenomenal. And speaking of Jimmy's, Jimmy Korderas is going to be there. Referee extraordinaire. He has refereed the main event of WrestleMania 24, The Undertaker versus Edge. You want to know some secrets about that match? He'll tell you. I feel like I'm missing somebody because there's so many different people are going to be there. How about the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer, right? ECW's heart and soul is going to be there. You can talk to him about the WWE ECW. You can talk about all the crazy stories from back in the days in Philadelphia. Or how about Billy Gunn, the newest member of the WWE Hall of Fame? You can talk to him about DX, about the smoking guns, about stuff in TNA. You can talk to him about, what's going on in AEW right now, huh? Right? He's a producer there. Get all the inside scoop from him. But there's only one way that you can do that, and that's to go and get your tickets for the Legends Convention. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the sponsored athlete from WrestleMedia, Typhoon. Tugboat, the Shockmaster, Fred Ottman, however you want to refer to him. He's going to be with WrestleMedia. He is going to be there. We have sponsored him for the show. We couldn't be prouder to have Fred Ottman as a temporary member of WrestleMedia. We'll have a shirt ready for you, Tugboat, when we see you there at the Leon Center in Kingston, Ontario. I've yammered on about it so much here, but this is the home stretch, right? I wanted to quickly promote this because, you know, Jan Murphy has done so much to support WrestleMedia, and I can admit that we're a smaller podcast right now. We have our numbers are small, but they're very loyal, and we appreciate every single one of you that has decided to take the time out of your day to listen to us. We know that there's not a lot of time in your day. Nobody has a lot of time these days. And for you to choose us to say, I want to hear what these men and women have to say about the world of professional wrestling, well, I consider that a great honor. So thank you very much for that. And Jan Murphy has recognized that we are passionate about wrestling the way he is passionate about wrestling. And if you need to see that passion on display, it's right there at Chinlock. So we want to thank Jan Murphy because so many of the interviews that we've had since our inception has been through Jan Murphy. So please do us a favor, support Jan, go and see the Chinlock show, go get your tickets to the Legends Convention. He cares very deeply about pro wrestling and about Youth Diversion Kingston. That's the charity that all of this is supporting. So go support all those great causes, including Jan himself. Go to chinlockwrestling.com, visit Ticketmaster, go visit the guys on Facebook, get your tickets now, because WrestleMedia will be there, and we're bringing something big. In case you didn't know, we are going to be running our own little contest at this Legends Convention and Chinlock show. We are giving away 2 tickets to SummerSlam. Yeah. Now, the card may be equal to the Chinlock show, but you are definitely not going to be able to find a ticket, at least not in the exorbitant scalper prices, that's for sure. So what are you going to do? You're going to come see the Chinlock Wrestling Legends Convention, and you're going to swing by the WrestleMedia booth, because we are giving away a pair of tickets to SummerSlam. How cool is that? So here's what you got to do. Get your tickets to the Legends Convention. Come see us at the booth. I guarantee you it'll be less than the cost of a ticket to SummerSlam this year, and you'll get to see the biggest pay-per-view event in Canada this year over at the ACC, or the former ACC. It's the Scotiabank Center now, I think. We got those tickets. We want to give them to you, but the only way to do it is to come see us at Chinlock. We can't wait to see you. Thanks so much for sticking around. I had a great time talking to Rob. I hope you enjoyed the interview as well. Again, if you want more, visit our Patreon. Otherwise, check out everything that we've got at WrestleMedia.ca. On behalf of everyone from WrestleMedia, we want to thank you very much for listening. And until next time, until we see you at Chinlock this Saturday, you know what to do. Listen, share, subscribe, repeat.
This has been a presentation of WrestleMedia, where everything is wrestling and wrestling is everything.
Here's what you're missing out on right now over at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.
So when I'm going there, the main purpose is through the WWE auction site, we sell prints of my paintings that are signed by the wrestlers.
Okay.
And so I'm actually going there and getting those autographs. But it's an ideal way to get face-to-face time with all the wrestlers, but also be there present in front of whatever executives are coming through or people in different departments, and building those relationships, and like seeing what I can do to help them, what I can learn from them, those kind of things.
Come on, get real with this, Rob. This is your opportunity to go to shows every single month and have an excuse to see it. You could mail those prints out there. You know that. This is just your way to get out there and enjoy the show and be there in person. Hey, I ain't throwing any shade at you. I do the exact same thing. I'm just saying, I see through it, man. I understand. I see what's really going on here.
Want more? Sign up now at patreon.com/WrestleMedia.ca.